I never thought taking out my trash could lead to being handcuffed in front of my own house. Live streamed to the entire neighborhood by a woman holding her phone like it was some kind of weapon. It all started on a quiet Tuesday morning when I stepped outside, coffee in one hand, trash bag in the other. That's when Karen, our self-appointed HOA enforcer, came storming out like she was chasing a criminal. Camera already rolling. She said I was violating community standards. Her words, not mine. I barely had time to blink before she started, barking orders and threatening to call the authorities. But what she didn't know was, well, that part comes later. Karen's the type who documents everything she lives for, that HOA Facebook group. And this time, she thought she struck gold. "This is going viral," she muttered under her breath as she filmed me from the sidewalk, narrating like she was hosting a true crime documentary. The way she waved down the sheriff's deputy pulling into our cul-de-sac, you'd think she was about to be handed a medal. But instead, something happened that made her face drain of all color. Like someone had just flipped her internal power switch. I stayed calm, barely saying a word, because I knew how this was going to end, just not how dramatic it would be. The camera was still rolling when the deputy stepped out of his car, serious look on his face, hand resting on his belt. Karen pointed at me like she was about to win an award. Then, the deputy looked at me, paused, and did something no one, especially not Karen, expected. Her phone suddenly dropped a few inches, her mouth slightly open, like the world just turned upside down. That's when everything changed. Karen blinked, clearly confused, her phone still aimed at me, but now trembling just slightly. The deputy straightened his posture, took a small step forward, then gave me a sharp, respectful salute. That's right, a full salute, right there in front of her. She froze. For a second, it was like her brain couldn't quite catch up to what was happening. I didn't return the salute immediately. I looked at her first. Her eyebrows were twitching, trying to piece together the sudden shift in control. The woman who thought she was running the show suddenly had no script left to follow. Now here's what Karen and most of the neighborhood didn't know. I moved in a little over 6 months ago, kept to myself, kept my uniform out of sight. I didn't mention what I did for work because I wanted a break from all the attention. After years of serving as a sheriff in another county, I transferred to this quieter place, hoping for some peace. I never expected to find myself the target of weekly HOA letters, security camera screenshots, and thinly veiled accusations from someone who seemed to think she was the law. Karen had always been suspicious of me. She never said it outright, but the looks, the tone, it was clear. Every time I parked slightly off-center or forgot to bring in my bins right away, she took it as a personal offense. And I guess today, she thought she'd finally caught me in something big enough to broadcast live to her growing audience of nosy neighbors. But what she didn't know, and what that deputy just made painfully clear, was that the law she kept threatening to call was already standing in front of her. I could see it in her eyes. Panic, confusion, maybe even a flicker of regret. But she wasn't done. Not even close. Karen finally lowered her phone a few inches, though it was still recording. You could almost hear her brain spinning. Oh, she tried to laugh it off, muttering something like, "Oh, I didn't realize. You're with law enforcement?" The deputy didn't answer her. He was still facing me, calm but firm, clearly aware of the scene unfolding and a dozen curious neighbors now peeking through curtains or stepping onto their porches. The neighborhood gossip train was already rolling. I kept my expression steady. I wasn't angry, just tired. This wasn't the first time Karen had made a scene. Last month, she accused a teenager of trespassing because he walked too close to her hydrangeas. A week before that, she sent out an email blast claiming someone had illegally parked a suspicious vehicle outside her house. It was the mail carrier. Her obsession with control had been slowly boiling over, and this time she aimed all that pressure at me. Probably thought I was just some guy in a hoodie who didn't belong in her perfect little world. But here's where it got interesting. As the deputy and I exchanged a few quiet words, Karen stepped back and began whispering furiously into her phone. She thought she was being discreet, but I could hear enough. Get the HOA lawyer. I don't care if he's the sheriff. There's no record of that in the neighborhood database. That last line stuck with me. The neighborhood database. I hadn't heard that one before. What exactly was she keeping track of? That's when one of the neighbors, Mrs. Alvarez, came forward, timid but brave. She's been recording everyone, she whispered to me. There are files, videos, notes. The tension shifted. This wasn't just about me anymore. Karen had been building some private system of control, and now cracks were showing. I glanced back at Karen. Her face was pale, but her eyes were burning. She wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. The air felt thick as more neighbors began to gather, drawn by the commotion and the glow of Karen's phone screen broadcasting live to who knows how many viewers. She gripped the device tightly now, eyes darting between me and the deputy, as if looking for an escape route that didn't exist. Her usual confident, loud voice had cracked, replaced with hurried, clipped sentences. You're not above the rules. This is private property. We have codes to follow, she insisted. Though the firmness behind her words was fading, the deputy remained steady, his gaze sharp but respectful. I could tell he was weighing the situation carefully. Behind his calm exterior, I sensed a growing tension. Was he here just because Karen called, or was there something more he needed to figure out? The respect he showed me with that salute wasn't just a formality, was a message, and it unsettled Karen more than anything else as the Livestream views climbed. Karen's sidekick, another HOA member with a tablet, peered, whispering. Frantic updates. Think we're planning to escalate this, maybe even file a formal complaint or call in backup. But I knew the truth was far more complicated than any HOA guideline. This was about power, control, and secrets that had been buried just beneath the surface of this quiet neighborhood. Then, just when it seemed Karen might try to wrest control back by confronting the deputy or me directly, a sudden sound cut through. The tension, a sharp knock on the deputy's car window. He glanced over, and his expression changed for a split second, as if a new piece of information had just arrived. The neighbors fell silent, sensing something was about to explode. Karen's phone wavered, her face paling even more. The deputy's eyes met mine again, this time with a hint of urgency. Whatever was coming next, it wasn't just about a live-streamed arrest anymore. The stakes had just skyrocketed, and the neighborhood would never be the same. The deputy's glance toward his car window was brief, but enough to shift the entire mood. He quickly stepped away from me and toward the driver's side door, leaving Karen standing there, frozen like a statue, her phone still streaming every second. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, whispers of curiosity and concern weaving through the street as neighbors tried to piece together what was unfolding. Karen's confident grip on the situation was slipping fast. Suddenly, the deputy pulled out his radio, speaking in low, clipped tones. Whatever he said seemed serious. His voice grew tighter, more urgent. Then, without warning, he turned back toward me and lowered his voice. You need to come with me. Now. The words hung heavy in the air, and everyone's eyes snapped. To me, anticipation thick as a storm cloud. Karen's mouth fell open, her phone shaking in her hand. The woman who'd been live-streaming my arrest had just lost control of the narrative completely. But just as I was about to move toward the deputy, the unexpected Honda second squad car roared into the cul-de-sac, lights flashing, tires screeching. Neighbors stepped back, fear and confusion mingling on their faces, before I could react. The deputy held up a hand to stop the second officer. Then, leaning closer, he whispered something I couldn't quite catch, but the tone was grave. Karen's face paled even more, and her phone slipped from her fingers to the pavement with a sharp crack. It was clear now. This wasn't a simple HOA complaint or a neighborhood spat. The deputies were involved in something much bigger, and whatever it was, it had something to do with me. The live stream had caught more than just an argument. It had caught a secret no one here was ready to face. Karen's world and mine were about to collide in ways neither of us could have predicted. The tension was unbearable. What was hidden beneath the surface of this quiet neighborhood? And why had the deputies suddenly shifted from routine to urgent? Everyone was waiting for answers, but the real story was just The second deputy stepped out of his car, eyes scanning the gathered neighbors before locking onto Karen. His voice was calm, but carried an undeniable authority. "Ma'am, we've been reviewing neighborhood complaints and the footage you've been posting online," he said, glancing at Karen's broken phone on the pavement. "It's come to our attention that there may be an ongoing privacy violation issue. Recording residents without their consent and storing sensitive information, this goes beyond HOA rules." Karen's confident facade shattered. The neighbors exchanged shocked glances, murmurs growing louder. The deputy turned to me, nodding slightly. "And you, Sheriff, we appreciate your discretion in keeping a low profile. It's been difficult for you here. But your transfer wasn't just for peace, it was also to protect you from those who might misuse their power." I finally spoke up, steady but firm. Karen wasn't just enforcing rules, she was using fear and control to manipulate the community. Her live stream was supposed to intimidate me, but it exposed something far worse. Karen tried to interrupt, but the deputies held up their hands. "This investigation is ongoing," the lead deputy warned. "But what's clear is that the misuse of surveillance and harassment has affected this neighborhood deeply." Karen's phone buzzed with notifications, messages from angry viewers, warnings from HOA members. Her power had crumbled in real time. She looked around, realization dawning that the law she tried to wield was now against her, just when it seemed the ordeal was over. The lead deputy reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "Before we go, Sheriff," he said, handing it to me. Inside was a letter and official commendation from the department, acknowledging my transfer and warning me of potential threats from certain HOA members. Karen's eyes widened again. "This time with genuine fear. You knew all along," she whispered. I smiled slightly. Sometimes the real law isn't what you live stream or claim, it's what you earn through respect and patience. The deputies led me back to the car, leaving Karen standing in the middle of the street. Her live stream ended, her reign broken, and the neighborhood forever changed. But as the car pulled away, a message buzzed on my phone. It was an anonymous tip. "This isn't over. Watch your back." The calm was just the surface. The real story was only beginning as the deputies drove away. The tension in the neighborhood began to settle, but the ripple effects of that day were just starting to show. Karen's live stream was deleted quickly, and the HOA's usual grip on the community loosened. People began talking openly about what had happened, sharing their own experiences with Karen's overreach. The secret files she'd kept, videos, notes, and recordings, were quietly handed over to the authorities, confirming the pattern of intimidation many had suspected but never voiced. For me, the official commendation was more than just a piece of paper. It was a reminder that sometimes you have to stand firm and let the truth come out, no matter how uncomfortable it makes others. Living here now felt different. The respect from neighbors who had been wary before was slowly growing. I realized that being part of a community isn't about avoiding conflict, but facing it with honesty and patience. Karen, meanwhile, faded into the background. Her reign as the neighborhood's self-appointed watchdog was over, but the lessons remained clear. Power used without empathy and fairness only breeds distrust. The neighborhood had learned to value privacy and respect over control and fear. And that change was felt in every conversation and smile shared on the street. Even now, months later, I keep that anonymous